The metallic corridors of the Medora station thrummed with the low hum of machinery. Bright panels flickered overhead, casting sterile white light over the polished floors. Somewhere deep inside the station, a piercing scream cut through the mechanical symphony, bouncing off walls and resonating through the air vents. It was a scream filled with raw, unbearable pain, one that made even the most hardened engineers pause mid-task. Ilara's body convulsed against the restraints that held her. Her skin glistened with sweat under the cold artificial lights, her breathing ragged and uneven. Each heartbeat throbbed like a drum in her ears. The experiment, the one the Medoran scientists claimed would unlock her potential, was failing, or perhaps it had already failed. The pain she felt was something that no device, no machine, was meant to withstand. The Medoran researchers watched silently from behind reinforced glass, their 6 limbs folded in stoic observation. Their faces, if they could be called that, betrayed no emotion. Logic dictated that the trial should proceed. Logic dictated that any suffering was irrelevant if the data could be recorded. But as Ilara's screams echoed, even the most seasoned observers felt an unfamiliar pull, an instinctive discomfort they did not understand. Then came the door. A human man stepped through, calm and deliberate, like a force of gravity entering a chaotic system. He did not run. He did not hesitate. He simply walked, each step resonant with a confidence that seemed almost alien to this station of cold machinery. His name was Adrian. He had been sent to Medora Station as part of the scientific liaison team, but his role had evolved beyond observation. He carried a presence that made everyone organic and synthetic alike. Take notice. Adrian's eyes found Ilara instantly. They were wide, intelligent, and filled with a strange mixture of empathy and curiosity. He did not flinch at her screams. He did not recoil at the sight of her trembling body. Instead, he approached the restraint platform, his hands hovering slightly. Uncertain, but not afraid. "Ilara," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "I'm here." The name rolled off his tongue with care, as though it carried weight. As though it acknowledged her existence not as a test subject, but as someone important. Ilara's body shook at the sound. She wanted to scream, to protest, to push him away. But something inside her shifted. It was a sensation she could not name, a warmth in the midst of agony, tethered to something real. Adrian's hand moved slowly, cautiously, brushing the edge of the restraint. The air seemed to thrum with tension, not from machinery, but from the presence of this human. When his fingers finally touched her shoulder, the effect was immediate. Her body stilled, and a strangled gasp escaped her lips. It was not the mechanical relief of an anesthetic, nor the cold precision of medical intervention. It was something deeper, something primal. Pain still radiated through her, but it was tempered by his touch. Her muscles began to unclench, her breathing slowed, and for the first time, her eyes did not reflect only terror. They flickered with recognition. With hope, Adrian did not speak. He merely held her, letting his presence radiate calm, letting his warmth seep into the void of fear and pain. Slowly, the trembling began to ebb. Slowly, her screams became whispers. The Medoran scientists exchanged nervous signals, communicating in a language of chirps and clicks. No human had ever interacted with a Medoran test subject this way. Their protocols did not account for such anomalies. Data logs filled with numbers could not measure the effect Adrian had. And yet, it was undeniable. "Ilara, can you hear me?" Adrian asked softly. She nodded, the motion small but deliberate. She could feel the fire of pain inside her, but it was no longer unbearable. There was a strange clarity amidst the haze of agony. A tether, anchoring her mind to something external. Something alive, for reasons even Adrian did not fully understand. His touch, his presence, was not just comforting, it was transformative. The biofeedback monitors began to record a shift in her neurological patterns. Heart rate irregularities smoothed. Neural oscillations stabilized. The Medoran scientists recorded everything, their skepticism battling with fascination. "Ilara, focus on my hand," Adrian murmured. "You're stronger than they think. You're stronger than you know." The words, simple as they were, resonated in her mind like a beacon. She clutched his hand as if it were a lifeline, and something inside her stirred. The pain, though still present, began to morph, transforming from a force meant to break her into a fire she could wield. The restraints, designed to keep her immobile, no longer held complete dominion over her body. Her muscles, previously rigid with agony, responded to her will. The scientist gasped. Protocols dictated that no subject should have the ability to override the restraint system. Logic demanded that Alara was at the mercy of the machines. But here she was, bending, pushing, flexing, responding not because of the machines, but because of the human who had dared to touch her. Adrian felt a subtle vibration through his fingertips. It was the echo of life, of resilience. He did not speak. He simply allowed his presence to act as a conduit, a channel for something the Metarans could not quantify: trust, hope, and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. Gradually, the restraints clicked inward, responding not to mechanical commands, but to the subtle neural surges radiating from Alara. Her eyes, once wild with pain, now glimmered with focus. She drew a deep, steadying breath, and for the first time, tested her strength. Her arms strained against the binds, and with a combination of willpower and raw human determination, she freed herself. The scientist froze. Their calculations, their algorithms, their expectations, all had failed. No Madoran subject had ever displayed this level of autonomous control under duress, and it was Adrian's presence that had unlocked it. Alara collapsed into his arms, exhausted but alive. The tremors of pain still lingered, but they no longer dominated her existence. She lifted her gaze to him, and in her eyes was a mixture of gratitude, wonder, something else, recognition of a bond that transcended species, logic, and experiment. "You saved me," she whispered. Adrian shook his head, smiling faintly. "No," he said. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you who you are." There was a pause. Even the hum of the station seemed too quiet, as if the universe itself had paused to witness the moment. The Metarans stepped forward, their multiple limbs twitching with curiosity and unease. One of the senior scientists, an elder named Vale, approached cautiously. "Human, your methods are anomalous. Our procedures do not account for." Adrian cut him off with a simple gesture. "She's not just a subject. She's a person. And sometimes all a person needs is someone to remind them they are alive." Vale hesitated. The logic circuits in his brain struggled to process the concept. It was not efficient. It was not predictable. And yet the data spoke for itself. Alara had surpassed every expectation, every limitation, simply because a human had treated her as more than an object, more than a number. Lara looked at the scientist and then back at Adrian. "I feel different," she admitted. "Stronger, whole." Adrian nodded. "That's because you are. You were never broken. You just needed to remember who you are. And sometimes, humans, we have a way of bringing that out in others." It was a quiet, almost imperceptible truth, but in the sterile, metallic corridors of Medora Station, it reverberated louder than any scream. In the days that followed, the Metaran scientists observed changes they could not explain. Alara's recovery was unprecedented. Her neurological patterns, once chaotic and unstable, aligned in ways that no machine could force. Her resilience became contagious. Other subjects began showing unexpected progress when humans interacted with them. Adrian's methods, simple, empathetic, and profoundly human, started to influence Metaran protocols. It was a revelation that shook the station to its core. Logic alone, they realized, could not account for this. Strength was not only a matter of biology or technology. It was something deeper, something ineffable that humans carried with them. Alara continued to heal, her strength returning not just physically, but in ways that touched her mind, her spirit. She could feel pain, yes, but it no longer dictated her. She could think clearly, act decisively, and, more importantly, she could trust. And Adrian remained by her side, a quiet, steady presence, proving with every gesture that humanity's power was not just in its tools or technology, but in its ability to touch, to connect, and to awaken the strength that lay dormant even in the most desperate of circumstances. In the end, it was not machines or experiments that transformed Alara. It was a human hand, a human heart, and a human belief in the potential of another being. And in that moment, the Meteran station, the Meteran scientists, and the sterile corridors themselves became witnesses to a truth that no algorithm could ever predict. Sometimes, the greatest power in the universe is the human spirit.